Yeah, so hi everyone. This is Asim. I teach philosophy and development studies at Azim Premji University. And Tara.
Yes, and I am a second year student right now, and I'm doing the combined humanities course in history, literature, and philosophy. Why don't you start, Asim, by telling us where you started? How did you run away from the sciences and come to philosophy?
Yeah, so I grew up in a very small town in Chhattisgarh, Bhilai, and there was no idea of philosophy, leave alone philosophy. Even literature was not in the school. So there was science and there was commerce maximum. And it was purely based on who doesn't do well enough for science goes to commerce. But as unfortunately for me, I was also very, very interested. I had very good school teachers in math, and I was really interested in pursuing BSc and math and whatever kind of a thing. But uh, there was push and pull, and it was all about, oh, let's do engineering. So I kind of caved in and thought maybe engineering is good. And at that time, IIT, and I think still maybe people do want to get into IITs for engineering. So I also got into one, IIT Delhi, and yeah, that's that's where this happy story kind of ends, and it becomes a little traumatic where I really kind of struggled, not because that I couldn't do these things, but it's just that um, socially it was a very alienating and very difficult environment. Always some interest was towards the development sector.
Mm.
So and there were few friends of mine, they were already doing social work in TIS, and they were doing other kind of, and that kind of inspired me. Another thing was eating me within somehow, that I don't know enough about the society, and
Right.
I'm just trying to change something which I may be completely unaware of. I may be doing more harm than good
Yeah.
in with all my best intentions, right? And that happens a lot in development sector,
Yeah.
because people without any kind of, I'm not saying you have to be get a education degree, but you need some kind of a, understanding, some kind of um, a training
Grounding.
to really, yeah, grounding to work with communities, and you cannot just assume that you know the best and you
Yeah.
will just try to change, which and what happens in development sector is also a lot of, you can say, neoliberal ideas
Right.
become very popular, and then that takes up, and so I was also caught up in that. But this inner doubt was really eating me up, and I was like, what should I do, what should I do? And then I really wanted a break to really reflect, so I was thinking I'll just take a gap year,
Yeah.
and like you did take a
Yeah.
gap year, which is great. After school, I should have
Gap
done
years
that,
are the
but
best.
I know. So, but instead of gap year, I thought that maybe a more structured kind of program will help me reflect better. And that time, there was a very new, innovative philosophy program that was starting, which was completely unheard of in India, or like it was completely not dependent on the discipline. It was just about that you can get trained in philosophical way of thinking, philosophical way of engaging with questions, and then you can use that anywhere you want. And that really kind of appealed to me. So I said, okay, I want to do philosophy, and my parents flipped out even more. They're like, people do social work when they retire, and they go to philosophy when they are dying. Are you going to die now? Yeah, because
Yeah.
philosophy is always
Yeah.
seen as something that it's like your spiritual end. When you are dying, you are
That's
thinking
true.
about these larger
Yeah.
questions. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe I have to die and then whatever, rebirth, and then
Rebirth for
start again.
this. Yeah.
So yeah, so I moved into philosophy, and I think for me that was very, very, like, I was really like kid in wonderland, because for me my undergraduate education was so bad that when I moved into humanities and I got to understand so many different things, and also to help me articulate my own experience. So what happened in IIT, with all that exclusion and discrimination, I kind of internalized it, and I thought it's my problem that I am this way, therefore all this has happened to me. So if I was coming from a dominant community, then I would have been fine, right? But humanities helped me. That training really helped me realize, no, it's not my problem. The problem is with the structure, with this kind of a patriarchal and casteist and homophobic kind of society that we have. And so it really helped me gain a lot of my lost confidence in some ways, that I am uh, uh, that it's not my problem to be able to say that.
Yeah.
So that's in a nutshell the journey to
Yeah.
philosophy and to AP.
Yeah, what has your sort of journey been like through philosophy now that you've been doing it
Hmm.
for say 10, 15 years? So you started off in one place, but how has that
Yeah,
sort of, what is it, where is it
yeah.
at?
Yeah, so in actually academic disciplines, there is always this thing of pure and applied, right? That there is
Right.
something pure mathematics, applied mathematics, pure science, applied. Similarly, with philosophy, also there is that pure and
Yeah.
applied, and I completely find that rubbish because pure is supposed to be completely inapplicable to
Right.
the world, right? And applied is somehow only about that, right?
Yeah.
But the way I have understood philosophy, and that's the way we are thinking about philosophy at APU, is that only with application you really learn even so-called pure philosophy well,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, we have a fieldwork component again in our BA philosophy, which is again
Ah,
unheard of
okay.
in
Yeah.
any philosophy program, because, and it's not something that we have just put it. It's really, we think that philosophy can be learned well when you engage with counter positions, when you engage with real people who uh, who you have to communicate in very different ways, and you cannot just be comfortably sitting and thinking about this, right?
I just have, I think, one last sort of question for you to wrap up this, which is what do you like most about teaching at APU or just teaching in general, other than the fact that you have like really great students, you have had great students. So, yeah,
Of course, first reason is always that I have very good students, so that's why it's such a joy. Uh, but uh, but yeah, as I just will go back to my own undergraduate experience, and I really felt that there was a lot missing there, and it really kind of it destroyed me a lot, and I've never fully recovered from it. So I don't know uh, how and when it will happen, but maybe I will remain broken at some level. But I didn't want that to happen to any other. So I'm, for that reason, so invested in not just education but higher educational institutions, that we
right.
create spaces that really nurture and produce or kind of help students figure out their own journey, and not really kind of destroy them in that process.
Yeah.
Which so that way I'm very happy that I'm at APU, because APU is probably one of the few places which put so much investment in not just teaching but also thinking about residential life, about
Mhm.
overall social life of the students, what they are doing, how they are. So mentoring in many ways is really something very kind of core to my work,
Mm.
and I really feel that is something that I find the most resonating at APU, and then in some ways, like you mentioned about the students, obviously they are a joy because we interview them very well. But yeah, jokes apart. But the colleagues also are really something. Like I have hardly seen a university with so many colleagues and not really leading to factions and infighting and people almost
Yeah.
willing to kill each other. So, so just yeah, that very high level of collegiality and very high investment of the faculty as well in this vision of teaching and research and mentoring and residential life. It's just very rare to see.
Yeah.
And also APU as a place which really brings theory and practice together in some ways. So I can have one leg in teaching and research and another leg in the field, and to be able to do that with support and with recognition. I think
Yeah.
that is something really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.